Okay, we are inside Cody, Wyoming right now. We've been on the road for 2 weeks and Karen is inside doing some grocery shopping. I took Willow out to do some business. There's some other campers out here on the outskirts of the parking lot. I can hear a generator running in one of them, so some of these people have spent the night here. We've got about another 40 miles to go before we get to our campsite, and then we'll be about 20 miles outside the eastern entrance of Yellowstone. This is the first time we needed to go grocery shopping. We've been doing pretty good so far, but we got to stock up on some stuff like lunch meat, milk, bread, mostly the essentials. We still have quite a bit of food in our freezer that we packed when we first left that we haven't used yet, just because it's been pretty warm out and a lot of stuff is going to either involve the grill or the oven. We've been trying to avoid using the oven right now inside the trailer. Oven would be great early in the mornings because the temps have been dipping down close to low 50s and it's been a little chilly, and I think it'll be a little bit chillier once we get into Yellowstone. But for now, we're just topping off some groceries, stopping here. I'm almost on empty. I got about 20 miles left on this tank, so we got to find a gas station after we pull out here, which hopefully is pretty close by. My gas tank is around 23 gallons, and a couple times when I got gas I put 22 gallons in there, so we were pretty close to being empty. So I'm gonna wait for Karen to get out. Once she gets out, we can load the groceries up. We got our refrigerator right with us, and then we'll be back on the road heading for our campground. I might peruse inside Walmart real quick just to check some things out. I'm thinking about changing out the shower head just because it really doesn't give a lot of pressure, and I think it wastes more water. It's not really aerated. So I'm going to see if they have any of the shower heads in their little RV aisle in Walmart here. If not, I'll order it from Amazon when we get back. If I can find it now for a decent price, I'll pick it up though. These tunnels are a bit unique to me. Usually when we've seen tunnels on the east side of the United States, that they're usually finished with some sort of tile or brickwork, and these were really just using the actual mountain itself. So this has been a pretty cool campground. It's surrounded by mountains. There's a river on the far side of the campground over here. You can kind of hear it flowing at night. The sites we're at have electric and water. There's about 12 of them when you first come in that all have electric and water. Apparently the water is something new in the last few years that they put in here. But we're just outside of Yellowstone by about 20 miles at Hill Campground. Hill is named for a firefighter that perished back in 1937 along with several other firefighters battling a wildfire out here. And there's a memorial down the street which it looks like people visit often and leave little mementos there. We're totally surrounded by mountains in this campground, so needless to say there is no cell signal and there is no TV signals, and we're pretty shy on radio signals. The camp host said if you wanted to get a cell signal you had to drive about 11 miles down the road. He said a parking lot to pull in, and he calls that the phone booth. We're all settled, we had a quick bite to eat, and we decided we'll take a little ride into Yellowstone for a couple hours, and maybe we'll see some wildlife during the evening hours. Coming in through the east entrance, the first thing we noticed that there was some wildfire damage from a couple years ago. Secondly, this is Yellowstone Lake. Yellowstone Lake is huge, a lot larger than I thought compared to what it was on the map. Many of these areas have a distinct odor, like a sulfury, rotten egg smell. There are many reminders of not to walk off any of the trails or paths. There's many people that have burned themselves, had injuries by traversing over to areas that they're not supposed to, and the ground breaks through and they fall into a hole and end up burning their legs or shins, or worse, even dying. At this particular feature, it almost sounded like there was a factory underground. There certainly is abundant wildlife, and we noticed that so many trees along the road had these rubs on them. Well, it's the next morning. It's going to be a beautiful day, but it's going to be a little bit on the warm side again. We are following record highs wherever we seem to go. We're going to spend a lot of time in the park, and we really don't want to take the chance on something happening by leaving Willow behind. So Willow is going to go with us. So our plan of attack is we're staying by the east entrance, just outside of it by about 20 miles. So we thought that we would do the east side of the park today. Unfortunately, we can't do the loops because the northern part is still closed from flooding that they had earlier in June. And after staying here a few days, we're going to move down to the southern part of the park and stay at Lewis Lake Campground. We're going to have to find a place to dump our tanks because there's no dump station here at this current campground. We are going to check in by the Fishing Bridge campground on the way to see if we can dump our tanks there or not. So coming in at the east entrance, there was a lot of construction, and if you timed it right, sometimes you bypassed the flagger, and these flaggers would take maybe 20 minutes to a half hour before they'd let cars come through. If you like, you could book a tour on the Yellowstone historic yellow bus, which have been around since the early 1920s. Now, Yellowstone is a huge park. Basically, you're just going to drive for a few minutes and stop for a few minutes, drive for a few minutes and stop. Unfortunately, the only place pets are really allowed is in the parking areas themselves. They're not really allowed on any of the sidewalks or walkways. So it's been a little bit of a challenge for Karen and I. One of us will stay in the car with Willow while the other one will go explore a little bit, and then vice versa. This is a petrified tree that was once wood, has now been turned to stone. We had a pretty full day. We're back at the campsite. It's going to be a nice night to get a little campfire going and to just enjoy the area. Take a little time to get organized in the RV and do a little bit of maintenance. Some of this foam broke loose in our vents and it's been blocking some of the flow of the air coming out, so we're going to work on that. Since we're situated currently not too far from Cody, we're going to go back into town, do a little sightseeing, and then I need to top off my propane tank at the Tractor Supply there. We are taking the RV, staying in Yellowstone at the Lewis Lake Campground. If you remember a few videos ago, my car was what I thought was misfiring. Somebody mentioned it could be the transmission slipping. But I floored it one day and the check engine light came on and I got this code off of my reader. And basically it's saying that number 3 cylinder has a misfire detected. So I've been babying it, keeping it in a lower gear when I'm towing the trailer, and that does seem to help. And when we're close to an auto parts store, I'm going to change the plugs out. Now Yellowstone does have service stations, gas stations, because there's a lot of miles to be covered in this park and you're going to need fuel. But the service stations, I just don't even want to think about what it would be cost to have them look at my truck just now. In addition to service stations, there are also general stores, little grocery stores, restaurants, so you can keep yourself inside the park, though you guessed it, everything is pretty pricey. So this is at the Fishing Bridge campground, and we were allowed to use their dump station because we are going to be staying in a Yellowstone campground further south. So that was a nice surprise. It's on the way, and then we just have to figure out where to dump our tanks after this next stop. Now we made it to Lewis Lake Campground, and the first thing I noticed when we pulled in was a sign, vehicle length limit 25 feet. So I entered the ranger station and I asked them, does 25 feet mean the length of my RV or the combined length of my truck and RV? They told me it was the combined length. I said, well, I registered online. They only asked for the length of my RV. She said, I know there's been a problem. We've been trying to get them to change that. And I said, well, am I going to fit in this site? And she said, probably not. She tried to find maybe another site, but they were full. It's a holiday weekend, so there's no way of finding another site. She again said, I'm probably not going to fit, but I said, well, let me just walk back there. I'll walk it just to see if I can get the trailer through the roads and check out the site. I'll walk it off and see if I can make it work. I took Willow with me to stretch her legs, and as I'm walking and approaching the site, it appears that we can drive through here and the trailer should make it. There's really no sharp turns. There are some tight areas with trees, but it looked all right. So I walked it off, and I felt that I could get the trailer in there, and that wouldn't be a problem. The problem would be what to do with my truck. First try, I got the trailer in, which left room on both sides for the steps and for the slide out. I would have videoed more, but we're working as quickly as we can because we're kind of blocking the road right now. They suggested leave my truck in the parking lot, but we were able to make it work and squeeze it in there. I didn't want to have it down in the parking lot because we got all our gear in the back of the truck. So the campground is very pretty. The lake is very pretty. There are no hookups. There's no electricity. There are some water spigots throughout the campground, and there's some pit toilets, but that's about it. So we're pretty much dry camping for the next couple days. Now there's no cell signal here either, but there is some cell signals throughout the park in different areas, mostly by the flat lake areas, the villages, and the higher elevations. Now that we've set up our new base camp, the plan is to do the western side of the park. And to me, the western side of the park is really like going to another planet. We spent 6 days at Yellowstone. Things are winding down. This is our last evening, and my commentary on Yellowstone is it's big. It's a very big park, and it took me by surprise. And in some instances, I think it's almost too big. There's so much to see and do here. You really do need a lot of time. And 6 days for us didn't really seem like it was enough. We were able to take care of a lot of the big things and check those off our list. And if we come back again, we can skip Old Faithful. We can skip visiting the lodge here. And we can concentrate on some of the more relaxing parts of the park. Maybe just setting up a chair and looking at wildlife in the evenings or early mornings. We weren't able to go to Lamar Valley because that area was still closed for us. I'm pretty sure it is open now. But these 6 days were a whirlwind. I recommend if you are going to come here that you try to stay inside the park. That way you're not traveling as much. Hopefully all the roads will be open, and that way you won't be retracing steps like we did. We divided up the park between east and west, and we ended up retracing our steps to get back to the camper each night. So that actually added about 2 hours per day of just driving back the same way we came. So if you can do the loops would be the way to go. You're not retracing your steps, you cover more area, and you see more things. So it's time for us to squeeze out of this campsite and move on down south. I hope you enjoy these videos and subscribe. Click on that little bell when you want to know when a new one is coming out. Keep an eye on us. Our next stop will be the Grand Tetons, but next week we'll probably have another tractor video where I have to finish up brush hogging down in southern Ohio. Take care, everybody.